Hello everyone, welcome to the Watchtower, and today I have this brand new graphic novel in that I'm going to be doing a review of. This is The Question, The Deaths of Vic Sage. This is written by Jeff Lemire with art by Dennis Cohen and Bill Sienkiewicz. And this is, this is going to be a spoiler review, actually heavy spoilers. Going to be talking a lot about this book. This book is so dense, there's so much going on that you're going to have to spoil some stuff to talk about it. So, just warn you right off the bat, this is going to be a spoiler review. And this book is part of DC's Black Label series. So this is a mature book. It does have adult content in it. There is quite a bit of language and quite a bit of violence. So this is this is a book for mature audiences. All right. So, anyway, jumping into this, this book is one of the reasons that I love comic books and graphic novels and stuff, because you can do so much with them. This is a superhero story, but it really tackles really important events in this. I mean, I really think this is a book that everybody should read. Not even just comic book people. Just everybody should read. This should be like required reading in schools, like for high schools or maybe college. But this should be something that everybody should read. There's so many good lessons and stuff in this story. And so the main premise of this story is that the Question is the hero of Hub City, and Hub City is a city that is very, very corrupt, from the mayor all the way down to just like street level cops and stuff. It is very, very corrupt, like worse than Gotham City. It's very corrupt, very racist, very greed, just all kinds of stuff, just terrible. And the Question operates in the city, and he's trying to make the city better. Well, he starts reliving past lives that he didn't know he had to figure out this mystery that's going on with this guy called the Man of 1,000 Faces. And it's basically this individual who's been operating in Hub City for hundreds of years, and he can just change his appearance, and he pretty much just runs Hub City through various means or whatever. He has like a cult that follows him, and he just runs Hub City through various means or whatever. And turns out that the Question has been reincarnated over the years and has been fighting him throughout the decades and stuff, and throughout the centuries. And starting in like the 17, the 18, 70s, 1880s, like Western times. He's been when it was like Hub County before it was like a city. He's been reincarnated, and he's been fighting this guy, not remembering his past lives and everything. And he's been fighting this guy throughout the centuries, and he keeps losing. So it's basically like, it's this whole like journey of him trying to figure out how to beat this guy who he's never beat, and coming up and finding all this knowledge and everything that that he didn't know and everything, and this just grows his character. And I think the character work in this is outstanding. Just, he is phenomenal. The way the Question's written and everything. I mean, I'm a huge Question fan, but it's more from like the cartoons and everything. I've never really read many books with the Question in. This is like my first book starting the Question, and I loved his characterization. He was so well done. He starts out very just like, everything's black, in this was pretty much his whole story, but pretty much everything's black and white, good versus evil, just trying to figure out this whole thing. And if anybody's, if you know him from like other incarnations and stuff, movies, stuff like that, he's very much a conspiracy theorist. and very zen, very like everything's connected and everything. And he's not really, when we start this out, he's not really like that. He's very black and white, good versus evil. But by the end of it, his journey, he starts to realize that everything is connected, and the kind of conspiracy theories is there, but it's not leaned in so heavily at the beginning, but very much starts to go into that and everything, and how everything's connected. So I just loved his characterization. This is not going to be a book for everyone. The art, as I like the art, it's not going to be for everyone. The art has this very old style to it. It's very much, Dennis Cohen and Bill Sienkiewicz have been doing comics for years, since like the 70s and 80s. I mean, they were the original artists on the Question series back in like the 70s that Denny O'Neil wrote. So they've been doing this for a long time, and this has a very like old style of comic book art. It's not traditional like it is now. It's very much more subdued and heavy line work and everything. It's more of that old school art. But it works really well for this book as a noir, mystery-driven story. It works really well. And they do a really, really, really cool thing that I like, that as the book progresses and you start out in, you start out first in modern times, and then you jump to the Old West. But then when you start in the Old West, and the art is less details, more line work, harder, just like everything's just a little bit more, not as detailed. A lot of shadows over faces and stuff. Everything's a little bit more obscure. And as you progress closer and closer to modern times, the art gets sharper and more cleaner and easier to understand and figure out everything. I think this is done for two reasons. One, and this is just my opinion, to show like the passage of time from older times up until modern, and then also I think it's also done as a way to frame the visions that the Question is having, and the farther back they are in his lives, they're like harder to remember. They're a little bit more hazy, but as we move forward, they become a little bit more clearer and a little bit more in focus. So I think that's like a narrative device to show him like grasping more and more of what's happening as he's living out these previous lives and everything. So that's what I think is the overall gist of it. And this is going to be a book that's not going to be for everybody. This, like I said before, this is very much a book on social commentary. It tackles head-on racism and corruption and greed. And while it doesn't preach about those things, I think this book does a really good job of not being preachy and not going on and on about these things, but it really much just paints this picture and just lays out everything, and it lets you kind of decide, everything, which I think is great, because it could be very easy to preach, especially with everything that's going on now about like racism and police brutality and everything, which it clearly paints that if you're following the Question, and you agree with the Question, it's wrong. And of course, police brutality and racism is terrible. But it doesn't just like hit you over the head with, this message. It really walks you through it and lays out like a really good argument. Well, why you should just be like, it's not, you should just be, everybody should just love one another and come together, and just good should just triumph, and just really well done. But it's not that, I think a lot of people won't like this because it's not that big, splashy superhero story. There's not big fights and all that kind of stuff. It's very much more subdued, quiet character story with the Question. But I just think it's really, really great in getting into the nuts and bolts of the Question, what kind of character he has. I just think it's really, really well done. And then, yeah, as far as like the social commentary it has about all that kind of stuff, and it uses its settings, the Old West, like World War II era. It uses all these settings to highlight these themes over and over again. It shows, it uses the Old West to show, like the racism and greed against the Native Americans and stuff, how we wanted land and we just took it from them and everything, and, how we treat them badly. And even a little bit with African Americans and stuff coming out of this right after the Civil War and everything, how we still treat them badly, even though they had got their freedom. It doesn't, just because, they get something, it doesn't erase that prejudice and that hatred that people have for other people. So it really much delves into that. And then moving forward to the 1940s and everything, really tackles greed and really looks at how how people are trying to unionize in factories and everything, and how these big corporations are really trying to stop that, because if people unionize and they demand better pay and better benefits and all that kind of stuff, these people are going to be out money. So it really shows the lengths that people will go to hold these important people will hold on to their money and everything, and bribery, kidnapping, murder, whatever they have to do to hold on to their money. And there's this really interesting thing about this, how you really see parallels with what's going on in our world and everything today throughout this book, and how these are struggles that this kind of stuff that we've been facing for, hundreds of years, with racism and corruption and greed and just social injustices and police brutality. It's all been stuff that, are still stuff that's been going on, even though they've been happening, since, for over 200 or more years. These are still events that are still going on, and we just have a really, really interesting, or not, a really, really long way to go still to fix these things, and just really need to come together as people. And this book does a really interesting, this woman has a really interesting point that brings up that the question kind of is the central theme of the question, is that the people that are in control, they don't care about racism, they don't care about politics, they don't care about any of that stuff. That's not important to them, but they use these things, they use the media, they use all these things to keep people divided, to keep people butting heads, to keep, people fighting each other and focused on that and the differences between people, so they can stay in power. They can keep doing what they're doing over here, and they don't have to worry about the people, because the people are too busy fighting each other about, stuff that doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter what your race is. It doesn't matter what your politics are. It's just all about people and coming together and being on the same side and realizing that this is all we've got is each other, and we can't just destroy everything. So it's I just think this book is just fantastic. I really think it's a really good social comedy. I think everybody should read this. Everybody should read this. Not even comic book fans. The weakness of this, though, is that it is a comic book. A lot of people don't read comic books, so a lot of people won't get the message of this. And on top of that, it's a more obscure character. It's not a Batman or whoever tackling this issue. It's a more obscure character. So even less people are going to read it, even comic book people, because they don't know the question as much as other people do. But I think that's just really a shame, because I think this is a really, really great book that many, many people should read. But anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Please let me know what you think of this book if you've read it. I just think it's just really just this should really be an eye-opener for people and really show them, that we need to come together as a group or whatever, and just, I thought it was really good. But thank you all so much once again. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you the next time that I log in for Modern Duty up here in the Watchtower.